Hi, I'm Rabbi Myriam Klotz, and I'm really happy to be with you this week for our embodied spiritual practice during this first week of Elul. Elul is so much about helping us wake up to the truth of our lives and the truth of, of our experience that we know in our bones. In Hebrew, the word for bone, etzem, is also uh, uh, means essence, something that is deeply essential, perhaps not necessarily physical, is in the Hebrew at once both essential and deeply physical, in as much as it is living tissue, bone, the skeletal structure for us humans that gives us our embodied form. And as we seek to deepen our connection with that essential aspect of our beings in an embodied way, there's a sense that if we can connect to our feeling selves, our sensing selves as these embodied beings, we begin to soften the hardened places and close the distance between our essential nature, our divine nature, and our lived experience consciously. We return to the home of our being, in a sense. That's our Jewish practice orientation for this month, so that we might dwell, in a sense, more in closer alignment with with the divine, with God. And so I'd like to share with you um, a visual image that I think can help us root in our essential natures, root in our very bones. This is one of the names of God in a beautiful creation by the artist Nina Bonos. In this visual representation of Yud He Vav He, one of the names of God, you'll notice that the Hebrew letters are vertical. They're not horizontal, reading from right to left as we would usually read Hebrew. But in this version, consciously, the letters are from the top to the bottom read down. And the first letter at the top, Yud, is then followed by, underneath it, the He, which is that horizontal line, and then the two vertical lines coming down from it. And on, as we're looking at it, the left side, just that little bit of space between the top of that bottom part of the He and that horizontal line. Then in between, in this rendition, those two vertical axes of the He is another vertical letter, and that's the letter Vav. And then underneath that, the final bottom He. And this is one of the representations, as we let our eyes and the sense of sight, for those of us who are able to see visually, it's a kind of shiviti. It's a reminder that we place before us a divine name so that we may see in it a centering point for our attention. We can find ourselves in relationship to this representation of God. And as you look at it, let it seep into your being, your frame of reference, and even the skeletal frame. Because as you may notice, the top letter, the Yud, might be in the shape of a human head. And that upper He could be the very top of the shoulder, the sternums, the collarbone, the shoulders, and then the arms extending down. That middle Vav could be seen as your spinal column, the vertebra. And then underneath that, at the base of the vertebra, we have the pelvis. And then from the pelvis down, the legs and feet that connect us to the earth. So Yud He Vav He is in some essential formation, a representation of the divine, but also of you and me as human beings in our bipedal formation. So, in a sense, turning that around again, our spiritual essence could be read through our very bones. And our very structure, in some way, mysterious, and it's metaphor, but it's getting at something to focus on as we deepen our practice of returning to our essential divine nature, that our form reflects that divine essence. So, in order to work with this image and take it in and relate to it in our very bones, I invite you to take a stand with me if you're able. Stand up. I'm going to move my chair out of the way. I invite you to find in your space a comfortable place or way to stand. Don't need a lot of space for this. We'll be doing some gentle movement. But let's begin by just coming to a simple standing position with our legs about hip width apart, or a little wider if that's more comfortable for you. And just let your shoulders rest down away from your ears. And then we can let our shoulders begin to roll forwards and up and down the back. Breathing in and breathing out, beginning to roll one shoulder and then the next. And then letting your shoulders relax again down away from your ears, letting the arms just shake a little bit down into the fingers, the wrists, and just let them relax, those arms down away from the head, resting by your side. And let's come onto one leg and let the other leg just shake out a little bit. And then the other leg. So just sort of releasing one and then the other, any tension, just bringing aliveness down to the extremities, just shaking it out and letting the sides of the torso also and the head begin to just move a little bit and shake. And then you can take a deep breath in, and we're going to just vibrate the lips together as we exhale. And again. So just softening up the bones, the skin, the muscles, and the mindset that that may have gotten a little constricted from sitting in front of the machine. Now, as we come to a stand, I'd like you to again bring to mind the yud and the hey and the vav and the hey. And you can look at, if you'd like, if it's helpful, my body at the moment, or look at your physical frame on the screen, or you might close your eyes to imagine this. And we'll all be invited to do that shortly, to close our eyes and go a little bit more inside of our body awareness. But for right now, just from the outer body, allowing yourself to, as you inhale, bring awareness up to the skull and see the yud of the divine name, right as your own skull. And as you exhale, the upper hay, and the collarbones, the shoulders, and the arms. And as you inhale, imagine that vertebra, the spinal column in the center, the core of the body, lifting up right up to the base of the skull. And as you exhale next, the pelvis and down through the legs, that lower hay, through the feet, connecting you to the earth. So coming back to the outer form, seeing the skin, and under that, the muscles, and all of the tendons and the tissues and all of it, the organs that are interplaying with the skeletal system that is a representation of these Hebrew letters, Yud and Hey and Vav and Hey, the divine essence, the divine bones that together form a human frame. You, an embodiment of the divine. And so now let's take a deep breath into that. That's kind of maybe a different concept than we're used to thinking of as we think of our identity, of ourselves. So I invite you to let your eyes close. Take a deep breath. Feel your feet on the ground. Feel your head gently lifting towards the sky. And imagine again, I'll cue us through it. Yud. And exhaling, hey. Inhale, Vav. Exhale, hey. Just as you are, this divine name, with the very bones, the very essence of your being in this incarnation, in this physical form. Now let's begin to feel the relationship of bone and movement and flow. It may feel a little bit disjointed. You can let your eyes open to imagine different areas or aspects or dimensions of yourself. And we might feel sometimes disembodied. Certainly in this time where COVID accompanies us during Elul, we might feel disconnected, disjointed from each other or from our physical bodies, as so much fear and so much protection and so much guarding and constantly navigating safety, danger, all of that can have an impact on our physical bodies and our relationship to the physical body. So inviting us to feel the safety of unconditional being, which is the essence of spiritual practice, to rest in the ground of being that simply is, that simply is. I want to invite us from potential disjointedness to joining. So let's bring that in a very physical way to our wrists and our fingers, allowing the joints of the wrists and the fingers to move in circles, to move fluidly. And then you can let that extend to the elbows. Letting your elbows, the joints there, feel movement, bending, unbending, straightening, lengthening, perhaps moving in unpatterned ways. And from there, let the shoulders begin to move in circles as we did, or you might experiment and let your own shoulders, the wisdom in these bones begin to move you. And you can let the neck and head gently begin to also pulse with this movement, focusing on one part and keeping the others going, or allowing the rest to be still and coming to that area at the base of the skull where the spine, the Vav, meets the Yud. Rolling in one direction, the other, gentle movements, slow or faster, feeling the mobility of these joints and bringing your attention, your somatic awareness, the physical embodied awareness of this life force that is you and moving through you at the same time. And from the head, the neck, the shoulders and arms, let that movement then begin to extend down through the torso. And you can close your eyes at any point. There's no right or wrong way to do this. Let your own body be the guide. And as you feel ready, as your pelvis begins to draw your attention even down further down the spine, you can begin to move the hips, the sacrum, the base of the spine, the pelvis, warming up the joints in the hips, where the tops of the femur, the largest bone in the body, these thigh bones meet the pelvis, the pelvic girdle, and let that extend down these movements down into the knees. You can roll the knees in circles, being gentle with these joints, but feeling the aliveness and moving your attention, your presence down into this body and all the way down now into the ankle joints, moving the feet in circles, ankles in one direction and then the other, and letting your toes begin to move. You can take your feet in various positions of weight bearing or not on the floor, and just experiment with the movement of these ankles, these toes, the many bones in the feet, and then letting them all come back to rest on the floor. And take another moment you can invite you to let your eyes close and experiment with the aliveness and the capacity for moving as one whole being, head to toe, front and back, side to side, no right or wrong, but allowing the movement to engage and lead you. This is an embodied practice of invoking a connection to the source of your aliveness that moves through the bones, invoking the divine image, as the Jewish tradition says, human beings are created b'tselem Elohim, in the image of God, in the image of the divine. So allowing this movement. And now, as you're ready, taking plenty of time, let's bring it in to a landing. We'll come to a stillness. And I invite you now, again, you can leave your eyes closed or close them if that's comfortable, or for sure feel free to keep them open. But I'd like to invite some breath into this practice as we move with the body. And I invite you to bend through the knees and bend at the wrists so that your hands the palms are facing upwards and the fingers facing one another. So that we're going to scoop up invisible energy all the way up above the head and then slowly lower it. And inhale, lift up energy, lift the arms, the hands, and as you exhale, press it down towards the earth. Inhale as you lift, exhale as you descend. Inhale through the mouth, exhale. And let's add those Hebrew letters. Inhale, Yud. Exhale, Hey. Inhale, Vav. Exhale, Hey. Yud. Hey. Vav. Hey. Let's do this 2 more times. At your own pace. Vav. Hey. One more time together. Yud. Hey. Vav. Hey. And lifting up. Now, take a hand to the belly, a hand to the heart. Let your eyes close if you're comfortable doing that. Take a deep breath into the belly. Let it fill right up through the heart, and exhale. feeling from the bones right out through the skin, the connection, the joining, the safety of this touch, your hands to the belly, to your own heart. If you could imagine underneath the skin, the bones of these hands, the spine underneath the torso, skin, all the way through the density of tissue, muscle, skin, divine, essential, right here as you, made in the image of the divine. Nowhere else to go and nothing to do to try to make that happen. It simply is. And I invite you for the next few moments, before we conclude our embodied spiritual practice today, to, if you'd like to, allow your hands to slowly come away from the belly and the heart. And see if your hands and arms, if other parts of this body would like to move as an expression of your life force. Move in the shape or form, fluid, or in some patterned way that might express a prayer, that might express a moment of gratitude, or express the wonder and curiousness of being made in the image of something limitless and formless that is at once inscribed in these very bones, this very shape of being that you are. And as you're ready, you can bring this movement expression back to a close, bringing the hands again to the heart and belly. Take a deep, full breath in once more. Exhale through the mouth. And you can slowly allow your arms and hands to come down. Let your eyes open, and we can find our way back to conclude. Coming back to a seated position. Want to thank you for giving your time today to this practice, for sharing this practice together. And I'd like to invite us to a final kind of seal of our practice that we might extend out to ourselves as we go into the rest of our days or evenings today and into this month of Elul. If I am created in the divine image and it's inscribed in my very body, you are made in the divine image, created just that way, just as you are. And so is every other human being. What might you do differently? How might you be in relationship with yourself differently if you really believed that you and me and all of us are made uniquely and universally in the image of the divine? So I invite you to take a deep breath into that possibility. Maybe it's true. I wish you many blessings as you go from here. Thank you.